welcome to Mimamsa Perspectives. At the outset, let me first wish all of you a very warm and a prosperous Dashara, a festival which signifies the win of good over evil, dharma over adharma, and also the light over darkness. Dashara and entire stories related to Ramayana as a part of our social and the cultural consciousness since the time we are born. I mean, we are taught and we are brought up with the stories about it so much so that we almost feel that Ramayana is part of our family. But guess what? That's not only with India. It, and it's even more enriching to know that some of our own people who have through the navigational route have actually crossed the seas and landed on wonderful lands of Southeast Asian countries like Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Vietnam, and other countries. And with them, they took the Indian ethos, Indian culture, and Indian stories in a very novel and different way. They have a very peculiar way of looking at these textual epics like Ramayana or Mahabharata, and they have interpreted, intermingled in their culture and society, so much so that they have almost become one into their own cultures. And to know more about that, we have with us a very special guest today, Mr. Hadza Robby, who is an lecturer at the Department of International Relations in the Islamic University of Indonesia. He specializes in the religion studies, Islamic political thought in India, and political developments within India. And someone who is also very keen observers of the civilizational ethos and comparative civilizational studies across the space. And we will be discussing on a very interesting and yet a very curious topic of how the legacy, the enduring legacy of Ramayana is carried forward in Indonesia, and how people view this epic in their country, which are so close to our social and cultural psyche. Thank you, Azla, for joining us. We appreciate your joining. Uh, at,
Yes, you're welcome.
at the beginning, we are celebrating, we celebrated the 9 days of Navratri in
Yeah.
great rigor, despite the COVID pandemic, must tell you.
Mm.
And today is Dashra. We have a very specific bonding with these kind of festivals.
Mm.
Tell me how is this viewed in your country to begin with?
Firstly, I would like to say thank you to Mimamsa team for inviting me to this very interesting discussion, a very important discussion about the how Indic culture and heritage are taking its place in Indonesian culture. Um, I would like to focus not only on Ramayan in this case, but also in many other parts of the Indic culture and its traces in contemporary Indonesia, such as the Mahabharat, and also many other Indic stories that might come across in our culture. So I would not be specifying on the case of Ramayan, but I would like to also develop my thinking and also my arguments on many cases of Indic culture, which has its own traces in Indonesia as part of the larger Indian civilization. So that's what I need to say at the beginning.
Thank you. Thank you. Interesting.
Mhm.
Obviously, I mean, Ramayana and Mahabharata actually traveled with the Indian kings and those who actually navigated from India to
Mm.
your lands. But
Mhm.
how it survives in the country? I mean, for so many years, it has survived and it has evolved. How do you think?
Mm.
What is the reason behind this survival of these ethos in
Mm.
Indonesia?
The first thing that I would like to explain is about when the Indic culture is starting to spread in Indonesia. The first time when Indic culture come, it's in the 4th century AD. So it was very long time ago when Indian influences start to enter Indonesia. The first kingdom in Indonesia was established by a local Raja.
Right.
You know Raja, right? The Raja is the ruler
Right.
coming from maybe southern part of India, which is the currently the Tamil Nadu state,
Right.
uh, that is subscribing to the faith of Hinduism. So at the first place, this Raja were coming from the southern part of India, and they are making local converts from the local populace, so that the local populace would also subscribing to the faith of Hinduism.
Hmm.
We can see that this kind of kingdoms, the Hindu kingdoms, was first being uh, conceptualized in Java.
Yeah. Right.
So the first one was originated in Java around 2nd or 3rd century. Although there is a lack of evidence about that, but The more known first kingdom of Hindu kingdom was located in the Kutai Kartanegara, which is currently located in the eastern part of Kalimantan Island. Kalimantan is a northern island of Java, so it is quite far from Java. And in that part of island, the first Hindu kingdom was being inaugurated by a Hindu king.
Mhm.
Since then, we were adopting some sort of Indic culture, such as we adopt Sanskrit to become our official language,
Mhm.
and Sanskrit would be developed into something that is will influence our local language. So
Yeah.
Sanskrit in next few hundreds years to come will be developed into a local language called as the Kawi language, called as the Old Javanese language. So
Right.
Old Javanese language is heavily influenced by the Sanskrit,
Mhm.
as well as the adoption of Indic religion such as Hinduism. I think that is more closer to the Shivaism, and also the Buddhism as official religion in the first Hindu kingdom. So I think what makes Indic culture is so influential in Indonesia because of its heritage and also a very long, what is it, long traces that it has left in Indonesia.
Mhm.
People wouldn't suddenly forget it, and also another thing that contributes to the preservation of Indic culture is because our forefathers and also the early Islamic preachers always taught us that it is important that you follow Islam, but not to forsake your Indic heritage. So
Right.
it is very important that our forefathers, our grandparents, our teachers always reminds us to always respect the Indic culture.
Mhm.
So we are being taught that we should not destroy a temple, we should not forget the culture of Mahabharat and Ramayana because it serves as a moral guideline. So Ramayana and Mahabharat uh, were predominantly predominantly used as
Mhm.
part of our moral guidelines. Beside the Islamic moral guidelines, of course, we are considering it not as religious holy text as in Hinduism, but we consider it as a moral guideline that will guide us in both social and political lives. That's it.
That's interesting. In fact, no, that
Yes.
is a very curious distinction that the religion is on one hand, and the civilizational and cultural, and what you say as a moral, as the
Mm.
on the other hand. This distinction, in fact, is very curious, not so very common elsewhere, which is what I think it makes a very unique study insofar as
Mm.
Indonesia is concerned. Uh, uh,
Yeah.
how do you? When one thing is that it has survived through the forefathers and the preachers, but how has society as a whole absorbed these ideas? I mean, what kind of festivals, what kind of symbols,
Mm.
how they have been used, and how that becomes very, because culture is a day-to-day life for us.
Yes.
This is cultivated through symbols. This is cultivated
Mm.
through festivals. So, what kind
Yes,
of
of course.
institutions exist in Indonesia which has actually retained this distinction?
Okay, so let me show you some picture, if I may.
Please, please.
It is very important that I can share my screen so I can share some of the pictures of the
Yeah.
traditions of our people.
Yes.
Uh, yes, let me try. I cannot share the screen. So
Yeah,
can
there
I?
would be a screen
Can you
share for you.
Yes, yes. But the host disabled the attendee screen sharing. I think you should
Just
give
I'll
me.
just do it.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
check it
yeah.
now. Just check now.
Okay, yes, yes, I
Yeah,
can now. Right.
yeah,
So here's one of the examples of the remaining in the legacy in Indonesia. Here
right,
you can see that a preacher
right.
is preaching inside a mosque with the
Wow,
calligraphy of an Islamic god, Allah,
right.
behind him, and he's trying to explain the story from Mahabharat in the mosque.
It's interesting.
Yes, I've ever seen this kind of display once in a mosque. Yeah.
Right,
A preacher might sometimes use this kind of what is it Hindu religious play
right.
inside the mosque. Yeah. So he is trying to explain the Mahabharat and also Ramayana in the
Mm-hmm,
Islamic narratives.
mm-hmm,
He didn't change the story. He didn't change the storyline, but he
right.
took the moral teachings from the story and correlates it with Islamic teaching. I
Wow.
think this kind of thing will you will never see this kind of thing in any other countries, because
Certainly not.
many Muslim will consider this as blasphemous, but in Indonesia we considered it as something very important, because our earliest Islamic preacher used to teach Islam in this way, so
Wow.
that we cannot forget our Indic legacy. So this is the first one. We call it as Wayang Sadat.
Right.
Wayang Sadat, which is simply an adoption of Ramayana and Mahabharat, which
Uh-huh.
is taught in mosque and also madrasa
If
in
I'm not
many
wrong,
parts of Indonesia.
the person that preacher is actually holding, is it a demon or something from the Indian mythology?
Yes, yes, it's a demon, but I'm not really sure who he is
Yeah,
holding.
because the conventional eyes and the mushtas actually direct him to be a demon, probably. But it's
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, yeah,
He's actually using, and I
yeah.
think it's also very significant because then you connect with the populace easily, who have those civilizational memories,
Yes, of course, of
right?
course. I think this is coming from one of the character from the Kaurawa. I think.
Oh,
I think so,
interesting.
because
Yeah.
he also have several other characters here, probably from Pandawa. And
Hmm.
as he explained, he will just change the characters, you know.
Oh, that's
So this
interesting.
is one of the examples. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I think only several mosques are still doing this, because most of the mosques are already living this kind of tradition because they consider it as blasphemous. But several mosques are still doing this. I was attending a session like this, a preach like this,
Hmm.
on 2014, I think, in one of the mosques. So
Hmm.
the Maula or the Malvi, the preacher would just playing the instrument, and also the doll here.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Wow.
it's very important as a reminder about how the Indian and Islamic civilization could meet into
Hmm.
one harmony like this. Yeah. So this is
That's
one of the examples.
right.
The second one is, that this is Ramayan.
Right.
Yeah, can you guess who is this? This is
Yes,
the
Hanuman.
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 Hanuman, of course, and this one is Ram, Sri
Right.
Ram. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So we always have this display of ballet, the Ramayana ballet dance,
Hmm.
on the full moon nights. So it's usually occurring in the middle of the month.
Okay.
So
Okay.
every 15 November or 15 October, when the full is when the moon is full,
Right.
we always show this kind of display as a respect toward our culture of Ramayan. Yeah.
Oh wow. So this is every full moon on every month.
Yes, every full moon. Yes, yes, every full moon in Prambanan Temple, the largest Hindu temple in
Right.
Indonesia. So we
Right.
always play this kind of display during the full moon.
Right. Right.
Besides
Right.
that, I would like to show you many other thing.
Right.
Sorry,
Sure.
this one is coming from my previous class.
Right.
Let me show you another thing.
Yeah. But
Uh,
by the time you fetch your next visual, I just wanted to add on what you said. When then these symbols have been used by the even the Islamic preachers and the people in general, does it
mhm,
also show that civilizational memories or our own history uh, retains even if we change our religion or even if we follow something else? Our roots will always
mhm.
fall back to our civilizational heritage. Uh,
Yes,
how do you see?
I think yeah, yeah. I think that's the case that is happening in Indonesia. People wouldn't just simply forget their civilizational and also cultural roots,
Hmm.
because our forefathers or grandfathers is always passing this kind of teaching about the Indic civilization, about the Indic culture, through the oral tradition. So they always
Right.
reminding us about the importance of remembering stories like Mahabharat and Ramayana, because these kind of stories are the stories that actually leads you to a better life. They always
Correct.
saying like that.
Correct.
Um, they didn't ask us to watch modern movies or also drama. They always tell us to watch Mahabharat or learn something from the Bhagavad Gita even.
Right.
Yes, to,
Right.
to to know more about the culture of your country, because we
Hmm.
consider Indic culture as part of the culture of Indonesia.
Hmm.
It
Hmm.
is inseparable and it is indifferent. So it is very it's a common thing for us to know about the Indic culture. So this is another examples of the Indic legacy in our country. So we
Right.
always use stories from Ramayana and also Mahabharata as political allegories,
Oh,
political
wow.
allegories to explain, yes, to explain political characterization of certain phenomenon. So, for example, here's our financial minister
Right.
talking about the story of reconciliation between two opposing politicians. One
Mm-hmm.
is the current President Jokowi, and the second one is the current Defense Minister Prabowo,
Mm-hmm.
which was previously what is it, fighting each other in an election, but they
Mm-hmm.
are reconciling each other. So he explained that the story of Jokowi and Prabowo is similar to Ramayana. So Jokowi acts as the Ram, and Prabowo is the Rahwana here.
Oh,
In our version of story, Ram and Rahwana actually reconciliate with each other in one version of the story.
yeah. Yeah. No, that's
Yeah.
interesting way. Eventually, I mean, ultimately, the all these stories do not necessarily want to create a villain, but they just want to give
Yes.
you a more moral value. And if they are reconciling at the end of the Ramayana version, so good. I mean,
Yeah.
if that's good for the people, that's best part of it. That is
Yes,
interesting.
yes, that's
Yeah,
good.
yeah. That's
Because
very
there's no black and white in the Ramayan. Some
yeah,
people say it like
exactly,
that. You know. Yes,
exactly.
yes.
So
Another thing is that,
even in
yeah, yeah.
Mahabharata, I mean, we always say that Mahabharata actually talks about the grays more than the blacks and the whites, and it is always in the gray parts
Yes.
that you, and that black and white and gray is within each individual, so you cannot single out
Mm.
anyone as black or white. So that's
Exactly,
interesting.
exactly. Exactly. We didn't consider, for example, Karna to be the bad guy because he joining Kaurawa, or
Right.
Shakuni as a bad guy because he is facing a very difficult circumstances in his life. That's why
Right.
he acts so negatively. Yeah. So we
That's
have to understand it from both sides. You know, it's
that's true. That's
it's
true.
not just about, yeah. It is not just about the Pandawa being good or Kaurawa being bad.
Right.
So the second one is about the Rahwana. We always use Rahwana as a symbolization of bad character, but not always bad, but mostly bad characters.
Right.
So here we see that the strategy of Rahwana in 2019 election. So Rahwana what was the character of these two candidates. So obviously the person who write this is more leaning to the current president, Jokowi and Maruf, and he is
Mhm.
trying to criticize the strategy of the Rahwana. Yeah,
No,
yeah.
but
And the other one,
yes,
yeah,
yes.
please.
No, I was just
So
saying that because these symbols are used even in the political space as an allegories or as a similes,
yes,
this also shows
yes.
that uh, how one it has become with the social consciousness of the people. I mean, this is not
Yes.
seen as an outside imprint or some outside
Mm,
import. So
of
that's
course, of
interesting.
course.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Even us as Muslim, we love to use this kind of political allegories because
yeah.
it feel much more closer to us rather than using Islamic allegories, for example, because
Right,
it is too far from our culture. Yeah, it is in
right,
fact far more distant to our culture than the Indic culture. So
correct.
we always use the political allegories from Indian mythology. So, for example, here we can see that there is a Rahwana political legacy written
Mhm,
by a very known what is it by a very well-known artist here, Seno
mhm,
Gumira Ajidharma. He was
mhm.
a very well-known cultural expert. So he is
Okay.
writing about the how Rahwana has left a political legacy in Indonesia. Yeah.
That's
And
great.
also here the democracy of Rahwana. Yeah, so this is an opinion written by someone who is criticizing the current government about their conducts of governance. So
Mhm.
he's trying to say that current governments are acting like Rahwana in the Lanka
So
state. Yes.
if you have to criticize someone, you ascribe him to Ravana. Is that's the
Yeah,
political discourse?
yeah,
In
yeah.
fact,
It's very interesting.
I must tell you that that's not very common in India as well. I mean, we do not
Oh,
so
really?
yeah. I mean, we do not so liberally use these symbols in the. Of course, once in a while you'll talk about something that, but in southern parts of India, and I want to tell you, in southern part of India, there are people who have considered Ravana also as someone as their idol. So there is also
Hmm.
so. I mean, is this interpretations? Of course, we don't want to get into what is right or wrong, but
Yes.
just an observation that this symbolism is not very routine thing in India. I mean, India will
Hmm.
criticize political parties, so on and so forth, but this symbolism, I'm talking about the current political situation, but these symbolisms have receded to the more personal part because, as you
Hmm.
would be very well aware of, religion and politics in India is a very a very tricky issue. It is a very sensitive
Yeah, yeah.
issue. So, but I'm very fascinated by reading this or knowing this, that how even political parties and public discourse within Indonesia is so naturally intertwined with the cultural and civilizational values, that is an indication of how acceptive is the local populace there about this heritage, and how clear they're about the distinction that your religion can be one thing, but your civilizational roots will have, and they are not antagonistic to each other. They can survive
Yeah.
in hand in hand.
Yes, yes, I totally agree with that, because we always consider that the Indic civilization is an important part of our past, and if we try to forsake our civilizational identity, the
Mhm.
Indic part of the of our identity, we will lose part of ourselves. Yeah.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that is always becoming our, was it our common thought on the Indic culture. Recently,
Uh-huh.
there are several critics about the presence of Indic culture in Indonesia.
Uh-huh.
For example, that with the rise of the Salafism and also Wahhabism in the mainstream Islamic culture in Indonesia, they are
Mhm.
trying to always criticize the usage of the Indic culture in mosque and also in the Islamic teaching.
Mhm.
And therefore, currently we are seeing a rising case of radicalism in many parts of Indonesia. That is a very sad thing, but many people are still trying to hold on their belief on upon the Indic civilizational culture, because this kind of belief wouldn't just corrode their religious faith to Islam, because
Okay.
they see that Islam and Indonesia and Indic culture as something that could go hand in hand,
Wonderful.
not antagonistic to each other. That is very important to remember,
That's true.
I
I
think.
mean, and that's why Indonesia has always been put up as as a symbol of this resilience, very in the face of the radical version of Islam that you just
Yes,
pointed out.
exactly.
That is, I mean, even within in our discourse, a lot of Muslim scholars in India also point out to Indonesia as a symbol of
Mm.
resilience and response to the Wahhabi and the other radical forms of Islam. But
Yes, exactly.
I also wanted to ask you, this is also very subtle, that that Ganesha's picture is on your rupee, on the currency of your country,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
you also
Mm.
have a very interesting names for islands and places. Can you tell more
Mhm.
about them? What kind of places exist? Because our viewers would be curious to know about that.
Okay, one of the examples that I would like to bring here is the name of one of my friend. So
Right.
my friend, one of my friends is very interesting, because his name is Muhammad Krishna.
Oh.
So it's a very interesting combination of name, Muhammad Krishna. So
Hmm.
his name is his first name is Muhammad, his last name is Krishna. So it's a
Right.
combination of the two holy person in both
Right.
Islam and Hinduism. In
Wow.
India, if you are using that kind of name, it will be considered as blasphemous.
Definitely. In fact, a lot of cases recently are emerging in terms of, and that's really sad in terms of you ascribe
Mm,
the religious extremism to all symbols. In fact, some symbols can be the symbols of, togetherness or collective living. But that
mm,
is, and I think that is the responsibility of both. I mean, the people who are of a
mm,
particular religion and who have to take care of the other. I mean, that is a collaborative
yeah.
effort, which is why
Mm,
this is again an interesting case when you pointed out the name of the person. uh, I mean, even I hear that even the festivals and the square names are also have some relation to these take like the Mahabharata or Ramayana. Is that so? That you're even
um, what kind of festivals?
because there is a celebration of at least 1 month celebration of Ramayana in parts of Indonesia where there is a
Okay.
like in India we call it Ram Leela, when you portray the entire Ramayana
Oh
in the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
theaters, and
Mm.
that's what I think was that is one of the highlight for some of the people who visit Indonesia. In fact,
Hmm. I think the celebration of Ramlila was being is being played in Bali, of
right?
course, because Bali is a largely populated by Hindus, so they are playing Ramlila. I think during these months, but I didn't think that it is also played in other provinces, but might be in several occasions that might be some display of Ramlila in North Sumatra, because in North Sumatra we have a significant Tamil population there.
Okay.
They are always trying to display their part of Tamil culture through Lamlila, and also in maybe in our province as well, in Yogyakarta as well, in Central Java, there is display of Ramlila through the Ramayana ballet dance that we have seen before. So Ramlila is not something that is a big deal here, but of course we understand Ramlila combines the dance and also the drama, so we can understand that.
That's
Yeah.
true. But how do you think, this link, of course, that this link is because of the internet and because of all the mediums, this link is now even more explored. In fact, just to tell you, in India, we have a special courses on the links between India and Southeast Asian countries. There are 6-month courses. So this kind of studies are more and more developing. How do you see that this connection how do you see this connection eventually becoming as a major bond between two countries coming together? Of course, we share a very good relations between two countries, but those are at the governmental and strategic level. From people to people level, how do you think this can be even further enhanced?
I think there should be more, what is it, closer people to people initiatives, especially in the field of student exchanges, because we haven't seen more Indian students coming to Indonesia. I don't know what is the reason, but I think we should have a more frank discussion between the youths, especially because youth are having more open-minded what is it, perspective in dealing with another person. So it is very important for us to build a stronger engagement in the youth level, so that youth can exchange idea frankly over what is it, controversial issues might be, but also over any other issues like developments, what is it, political issues, and etc. And also we need to have more
I
cultural
know for a
exchanges.
fact that Indonesia is fast becoming a destination for honeymoons for Indian couples. That is
Yes,
fast.
yes.
That one thing is happening. I mean, that is also important. A lot of this is,
Mm.
I think, this development is of last 5 to 10 years, if I'm not wrong.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can see that some Indian couples are trying to visit the Yogyakarta, because in our province we have the Prambanan Temple as well as the Borobudur.
Right. Right.
So these two temples might be one of the main destinations for Indian travelers, as well as the Bali, of course. Yeah,
Right. Right.
and also I think we need to have more research collaboration for especially in the field of cultural studies, because
Right.
we haven't seen a lot of things going on between Indian and Indonesian universities in terms of researching Indian heritage in Indonesia,
Right.
or Indonesian heritage in India, because
That's true.
there's a lot to uncover, especially in this time of what is it, of close relation between India and Indonesia. We need to have a closer cooperation in the cultural and also educational field.
Right. I mean, that link, I mean, when that link is well unexplored in terms of what is the
Yes,
symbiosis between the Indian heritage and the Indonesian heritage, because that works
yes,
two-way. It cannot be one way. So that other
of course.
factor needs to be explored. Wonderful. And
Yeah.
also, I mean, I was also, you are also as a teacher, someone who is in profession of teaching and academics. How do you
Mhm.
see students, the new generation and the generation from your side, responding to this trend of, like the trend which you mentioned earlier about Wahamism and radical, how that
Mhm.
is reacting and how that is interacting, because that is also very critical for us as teachers and students to analyze this new development.
Yeah. So if we are looking into our current society, most of them are not really fond of the Wahhabism idea, because it restricts their movement, it restricts their
Right.
thought, and also it also limits them to express their culture. So
Right.
most of the people here living in Java,
Mm.
they always have some kind of belief that it is very important for me to preserve my ancestral culture, and if I lose my culture, I would lose everything. Yeah.
That's true.
So this kind of conviction
Mm.
would make them what is it, trying to preserve both their religion and also their culture, without
Right.
actually sacrificing one of them. So it is very important to make Islam and Indic culture is going together
Hand in.
in a single journey. So
Right.
they are not really attracted to the idea of Wahhabism. most of the people who are attracted to idea of Wahhabism are mainly coming from the, what is it, from the urbanized side of the provinces. I mean, like
Oh.
those who are highly educated, those
Mhm.
who are, what is it, having good jobs, where they
Mhm.
are not having good sense of culture and religion. They would be the easiest prey for the Wahhabis. Yeah.
Oh,
So
that's
we can see that engineers, technicians, and professionals are becoming Wahhabi easily, more easily even than the village people, because people who are living in village, they have a stronger cohesion, social cohesion between each
mhm, mhm,
other.
mhm.
So they are not really easily influenced by these kinds of ideas. Yeah. So they are still holding tight to their culture as well as their religion. So it is very important to see that Wahhabism is not that it's not really a dominant view of the Indonesian Muslim for the
That's
time being. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and it's important that you point this out because in times to come, I think we will require these kind of symbols, which are the symbols of hope, which are the symbols of resilience at the face of whatever extremism that is happening. And I think these are the work of these festivals, this culture, shared heritage. This helps us bring people together, and I think this is all
Yeah.
the more reasons that we should celebrate these kind of festivals, these kind of initiatives, so that we can keep that spirit of togetherness alive among our new generation and also across the communities. And
Yes.
I think that is the big message from your side, and I think it has gone down very well with people who are watching this because uh, a lot of debate is actually happening within India also about the developing, tensions between communities and how to resolve those tensions. And I think one way could be the way of actually, like you said, reconciling the two things rather than antagonizing them. You can reconcile with your civilizational heritage, your religious identities. They are not antagonistic, they in fact are very compatible to each other. And I think
Okay.
on this Dashra, I think this is the biggest message that we can have from Indonesia and from people like you who have been doing that. And I'm so grateful that you actually came and shared your views with us. We sure
Yeah.
like to, would increase our collaboration. And one point that you pointed out, that to study the civilizational heritage both ways, from Indonesian impact on India and so forth. And I hope with Mimamsa and your expertise, we together can think of a good project so that which will be helpful for uh, for people at your end and also those researchers at our end.
Okay. Thank you so much for hosting me as well, because it's a very great honor for me, because I'm just studying about the Indian politics and Indic culture, specifically during these 2 years, and I've been so fond of the legacy that has been left by the Indic culture in our country. And uh, I hope in the future we could have a future and further collaboration between our institution as well as your institution in India as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you
Mhm.
so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and thank you for watching this. Please share this video, share the message, which is more all the more important because this is message which is needed in today's difficult times. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and also wait for more videos. We'll catch up with you later. Thank you.
Thank you.